Have you ever wanted to give your best to something? Like you were there and you were ready and you wanted to contribute and you had all these ideas and the idea sensors in your brains were clicking and you're just like, man, maybe we could do this and we could do that and we can do this. And you were excited about it and you were wanting to apply yourself because you knew that it would stretch you in this way that you maybe haven't been stretched before, and it would just challenge you in this way that was intriguing to you, and you knew that you would grow and learn by doing these things, and you just knew the outcome and what others would say if you actually did it, and the value that you would bring them, and the solutions to the problems that you can bring. And you want to bring your best to the whole situation, but then you think to yourself in a split second, when you're in that meeting or when you're around those people and you're about to commit and you think, man, they not paying me enough for this. They are not paying me enough for this. Why in the world would I continue in this? See, I'm giving of myself and I'm giving of my talents and I'm giving of my effort and I'm giving of what I think could bring value to the situation and what, quite frankly, would bring value to the situation. But I'm like, they not paying me for this. Have you ever wrestled with that tension of wanting to give, but in the giving, you feel taken advantage of? You feel like if this was important to you, the other side, whatever that side may represent, would match some of that effort. You feel like you're a sports player in the very act of you doing what you're doing, or you've just been performing in a way where you've been outplaying your contract. And the question I want to ask today is, why should I continue to show up? Why would I continue to show up? Why should I continue to show up when it feels like I am giving everything, but the other side feels capped, can go no more, but they still want more than what they can give? So they want your side to go more, to give more, to do more, to ideate more, to whatever more. Why should I continue to show up? That's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we hop into that, welcome back to Crazy Good Talks. My name is Josh. If it's your first time here, welcome. We're excited to have you hanging with us and listening and tracking with us. Listen, here is my commitment to you, the listener. My commitment is that this will be honest conversations, right? A space to be able to have honest conversation. Cut all of the fluff. Let's get right to the authenticity. Conversations will be open. They will be transparent. All right. We do this. I do this so that we can share insights, not advice, to help you, the listener, get unstuck, move forward, and live aligned so that you could build a life that actually fits. Imagine that. Not just for pretend, not just looks good on the outside, not just I know how to play the game to fit in, but I don't really feel like I belong. A life that actually fits. And we're going to jump right into the check-in. The check-in is where I like to take a second before we hop in to check in emotionally, to try to cultivate awareness, because I believe that emotions are like glasses, right? They affect all of the things that we see and how we navigate those conversations or whatever the case may be. They're the lens through which we see. So we like to be aware of what that is as we're walking into something. And today, I am checking in, feeling a wee bit worried. A little bit worried. I think I have some things on my schedule that are all good things that I like, things that I'm excited to get to and to do. But those same things have uncertainty in them, right? We're waiting for things to drop, things to finalize. And there's something to uncertainty which produces worry, right? Just the mere presence of uncertainty produces worry. So that's where I'm at. I feel some worry. I don't think it's not a problem. It's not a problem to be solved. It's a tension to be managed right now. We always want to fix things. We don't got to fix this one. We just gonna live with that energy a little bit. We're gonna sit in the uncomfortableness a little bit. But you know what else makes me uncomfortable? The idea of outplaying a contract. Now, I first kind of ran across this idea when I was doing music. And I remember when I was first doing music and I was kind of moving with this independent label, and I remember I started recording an album, solo project, and I remember as I was doing that, the label, it was a small label, it wasn't a huge thing, but I remember as I started doing that, the resources were provided for. The studio was provided for, recording was provided for, all of that stuff was provided for, but I was the consistent piece in that. What do I mean by that? I remember I had, to paint the picture a little bit, I had left the job, one of the jobs that I was making the most money that I was making at that point, and I had left to go work on this album because I just felt like this is where my life was going, what I felt like the Lord was asking me to do, or more so what I wanted to do. So I feel like I stepped into that lane, and as I stepped into that lane, I used to spend a lot of time in the studio recording, but everybody else was working. So I had to learn to record myself. Now, it was not convenient like this mic stand we have right here where I can just put the mic stand up and be recording over here. No. It was like a studio situation. So the booth was like on the other side of the room, and the console was like to the middle of the room. So like I would have to press record, run over to the booth, spit my, 1 2 1 2, got the bars and all of the energies and all the things. I got the bar. Like, I spit that, run back, hit stop. If I made a mistake, I had to run back, hit that, do that. So I was doing the dance of doing all of that, recording myself, running back and forth, trying to do that. I found myself trying to start to produce and listen to production and trying to play things and making the beats and that I would write on, so that I would make music to. So that I started doing that. And then I found myself having to create artwork and to try to get artwork for the singles and all of the things. And I'm doing all of that. And one day I was talking to the person that kind of ran the label. And I'm just like, man, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this. Like, why am I even signed to this? Like, why I'm doing everything? I'm outplaying the contract. Essentially is what I was saying, is I'm outplaying my contract. I'm doing all of this stuff. I was tired. I felt stretched. I knew I was giving of myself, but I started feeling off about all of the things that I had to learn. So as we dive into this topic, I want to first talk about what outplaying your contract does not mean. Because some of you are hearing this and you're just like, hey, Josh, man, this is great, but I am not going to be in a place that is undervaluing me and not paying me what I feel like I am worth. I'm not going to do it, Josh. I'm not going to do it. I understand. But I want to, before we get there, let's talk about what outplaying your contract does not mean. Because I too am with you on that. So when we talk about this idea of outplaying your contract, first off, what it does mean is it means that you are going above and beyond. You're probably delivering value way more than what the other side may be compensating you for or maybe even expecting from you. And sometimes for me, as I navigated this journey and even kind of using the language of outplaying one's contract, I started getting a bad taste in my mouth because I'm like, man, I don't know. This feels not balanced. This feels off a little bit. But then I had to realize outplaying your contract doesn't mean that you suffer in silence. That's not what it means. Right? When you outplay the contract, it doesn't mean that you just sit there and you take whatever comes at you and you just keep doing it and keep going and keep producing and just build up resentment within yourself, within your heart. That's not what it means. Right? That's not what outplaying your contract means, right? That's not what I am proposing here, right? I had to learn that it wasn't that. And also, it's not ignoring wisdom or boundaries, right? You see, I've come to believe that there is a way to outplay your contract, but it is not with ignoring wisdom or boundaries about what you are experiencing. You must have boundaries in place. You must navigate and be wise about what you take on and what you don't take on. You don't just take on everything. Right? Because again, with the lack of boundaries in the situation, that's only going to make you resent the other side. It's only going to make you, might I say, hate the other side when it's not the other side's fault. I said it. It's not the other side's fault. You still have agency. You're still in control. So boundaries still come into play. So there's a way to outplay your contract, but it doesn't mean that you're staying silent forever and not saying anything about it. It doesn't mean that you're ignoring wisdom or boundaries as you navigate circumstances. And it doesn't mean that you accept being exploited. It's nowhere that says it's the wise thing to do to let others exploit and take advantage of you. This is what I am learning for myself. If you want to be taken advantage of and exploited, then you more power to you. But for me, not on my bingo card. So here's what I'm proposing. I'm proposing that what I've learned over time is, although back in the studio when I was doing the music thing and doing all those things and being like, man, I'm doing all of this, but I feel like I'm being taken advantage of, or I feel like I'm outplaying. I feel like I'm doing more than what the other side is doing. Why should I keep doing this? Why should I continue to show up? Maybe you right now are navigating a circumstance where you've been giving your all and you've been going above and beyond and you've been doing all that you can do, but you still feel like you're getting the short end of the stick, and you're asking yourself, why should you continue to show up? Why should we continue to show up when it feels like we are outplaying our contracts? We are doing more, giving more value, giving more of ourselves than what it feels like the other side is. Well, here's what I've come to understand thus far at this point in my journey, as I try to build this life that actually fits me. Here's why I've started to lean into that a little bit more, and it's not such a negative thing for me. Number one is this: because I understood that my work is my resume. Not my title, not my pay, but my work is my resume. You see, what was funny is what I learned during that time a little bit was, at the end of the day, I am exchanging a service. I am doing something so that something else could happen on the other side. And to be fair, it was an advantageous situation for me. But at the end of the day, what I learned is the body of work that I was able to leave with is what was of a benefit to me. What do I mean by that? So the albums, the songs, whatever the case may be, if I had said in that moment, you know what? I'm doing all of this. I'm being taken advantage of. I'm going to continue to stay in the situation, but I'm not going to give of myself. I'm going to drag my feet. I'm going to give 60%, 70%. That doesn't hurt anybody but me. Why? Because my work is my resume. My work is my resume. Your work is your resume. You see, when opportunity shows up to us or for us and it comes knocking, and you've just invested X amount of years doing something, and the first 2 years you were all in, and the third year you get a review. For those of you working corporate, you get a review, you go in, You speak to your report. They don't give you the raise that you thought that you wanted. And you say, well, I'm just not giving up myself anymore. I'm just going to kind of just show up. I'm not going to whatever. So for the next 3 years, you drag your feet. You're not 100% all in. And an opportunity comes knocking. It comes knocking. And it doesn't ask, what were you paid? When opportunity comes knocking, it asks, what did you produce? What did you produce? Show us. What did you learn? Why can I trust you with this next opportunity? That's why it is so important to continue to show up, because your work is your resume. And listen, I'm going to be real with you. I'm not saying I get there. I'm not saying I get there as fast as I would like to every time. I'm not saying that there's not a journey towards recommitting oneself when things aren't going like you want them to go. That's not what I am saying. But I am saying the thing that should start to help you shift the gear is remembering that your work is your resume. Why would you remain somewhere? If it bothers you that much, then change the situation. But why would you remain somewhere and drag your feet and not do all that you can do and affect your resume? And I'm not just talking physical resume. This is my paper. This is what I've done. I'm talking experience. I'm talking skill set. I'm talking the compound effect of all of that, because your work is your resume. Now, if that was enough to keep me going, that would have been amazing, but it wasn't. You see, it's something else that pushed me or pushes me when I come up against this idea of outplaying my contract and why I should continue to show up. And the second thing that does that is I show up because I'm training for who I'm becoming. I'm training for who I am becoming. You see, what's that quote that says? The quote is something like, you only rise to the level of like what you've practiced, or something like that. That always seemed to mess me up a little bit, because it's like, man, great players or great athletes are great. I like sports a little bit, so you're gonna get a lot of, bear with me with the sports analogies, but great athletes, great people that perform. Steph Curry, when he makes those crazy shots, I'm telling you, when Steph steps back, comes down, dribbles the ball, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, coming up the court, not even past half court, heave that thing up in the air. It's the fourth quarter. They need the bucket, and it goes in. When Steph does that, I'm telling you, it makes me want to be better just at life. Why does it make me want to be better at life? Because I'm like, man, for someone to be that great at his craft. But here's the thing. For him to be that good, he had to practice. He had to put up shots and shots and shots and shots and shots, all the shots that we would never know. And I'm sure there's times where he don't feel like hooping. I'm sure there's times where he don't feel like he's, even him, I feel like there's probably times where he don't feel like he's getting the max out of the situation. Even early on when he got injured and he was on his other deal, don't quote me, whatever the case may be, but I'm pretty sure that he was on a deal early on where he was overproducing how he was playing. Like, he was playing way better than what the contract that he was on earlier. And he was hoping that he renegotiated to get a better contract, obviously, and should he stay healthy and all those things happen. And it did wind up happening. But like, there was a season where he had to hoop his heart out. He had to hoop it out with knowing that he's overplaying and outplaying his contract. But he kept at it because what he was training for who he was becoming. You see, the reality of the situation is whether you like the situation that you're in, whether you're choosing to stay in that situation and short the other side, the problem isn't that you do that. The problem is you travel with you. Let me break that down. When you leave, your habits, what you've learned, what you didn't learn in that time because you weren't fully applying yourself, all of that travels with you to your new season, to your new job, to your new platform. It travels with you because you're training for who you're becoming. That's what I had to learn. I had to learn that I can goof off and I can do something to try to prove a point. But at the end of the day, I'm only hindering me. If it's that bad, remove myself from said situation. So, when it comes to why you should outplay your contract, do the thing, give more than what the other side may be giving. Why you should continue to show up. It's because your work is your resume. That's the first thing. Because you're training for who you're becoming. That's the second thing. And the third thing is, for those of you that are listening that may be of the faith that follow Jesus, the third thing is, because God often promotes in private before he does anything in public. Yeah. He promotes in private before he does anything in public. You are in good company. I had to realize that I am in good company, right? We see throughout scripture that promotion follows faithfulness. Promotion follows faithfulness. We see it with David tending the sheep before he led a whole nation. We see it with Joseph and how he managed the prison that he was in before he governed Egypt. We see it with Jesus and how he lived most of his life in quiet times, but then does public ministry for a few. God often promotes in private before he does in public. So what are you doing with the time he gives you in private? What are you doing with the time it feels like you're being overlooked? What are you doing with the time it feels like things are unfair? And I'm not saying that those feelings aren't real. I'm not saying that those feelings aren't valid. I'm not saying that those feelings don't bring emotion. I'm saying they do. And then what? They do all of those things. I understand. I feel it. I've walked it. I'm walking it at points, right? I understand. Then what? Then what? Are you going to continue to live in a way where you limit who you're becoming because you're frustrated with the output that the other side is giving you? Or are you going to step away and figure out what could be next? Or are you going to make the most of where you are right now? You see, outplaying your contract, we talked about what it doesn't mean. What it actually means is outplaying your contracts means you know your standards and you don't drop them for anybody. You know what you can output and you don't drop that for anyone. You continue to perform at the level that you can perform. Outplaying your contract means you don't let bitterness shrink your output, right? You don't let resentment creep in, kind of control and dictate your output. You still maximize despite the situation. It means that you're preparing for what's next, whether it's what's in front of you or whether it's something that you can't see yet. But the commitment to outplay your contract means that you are putting yourself over the whole situation. It means that you're taking a long view as opposed to a short view. And again, I'm not asking you to sacrifice your silence and stay silent forever. I'm not asking you to sacrifice your boundaries. I'm not asking you to be exploited. I'm asking you that if it makes sense, to not let others dictate what's in you. So the question isn't, and we'll close with this, the question is not, am I being paid enough for this? The question is, who am I becoming by how I show up right now? Let that sit. And as it does, join us next time as we continue the conversation. This is Crazy Good Talks. My name is Joshua.